So I have it set up so you can hear us talking and everything else.
Okay, cool.
So tower is the 118.3, and then the ground is 121.9. So to switch the two, it's just a flip-flop. You just hit that. Yeah.
Whatever's up.
Correct, yeah. Yep. All right, I'm going to call him. Mathis ground, Grumman 6034 Lima's off the ramp at Ranger with Sierra. VFR departure to the north.
Last call Mathis ground. Say call sign again.
That was Grumman 6034 Lima.
Grumman 346 Lima. Mathis ground. Runway 18, taxi via taxiway Bravo, cross runway 27, and I understand you don't want any service.
So we're going to taxi to 18 via Bravo, cleared across runway 17, and negative on the service, and that's Grumman 6034 Lima. So he screwed up my numbers all over the place. So
6034 Lima, and that's cross runway 27.
Cleared across runway 27. So anytime we have a runway, it's not active, but anytime we have a runway where cross, if he doesn't tell us clear to cross, we have to actually hold it the whole short till he tells us to cross. So he's given us that clearance already. So when we get there, we can just mosey on through. So once I get out here on the taxiway, I'll let you start taxiing. And then since the wind is really strong, I'm going to hold the controls back so that I'm not getting any extra wind on the control surfaces that's causing it to do weird things with the airplane. And when we start dealing with more crosswind, you're going to be able to feel it more when we put a crosswind correction. So the wind sock we saw back there is coming kind of from over this way. So since we're going away from it, what we want to do is we want to dive away from it. And so what you do is you can push it forward and then have the crosswind correction that way. And that's what is going to help us stay across the center line. So if you want to start taxiing, I'll just follow you. And you can kind of feel how, the rudders aren't going to do a whole lot. So you can tap the top of the brakes just ever so slightly. So you want to do the right brake. Yep. And just ever so slightly. So try to get us back on the center line here. I'll slow us down a bit. Yep. And then and then what you're going to do, yep. I'm just going to follow you and fix them. So you got to be a little bit ahead of it and be a little bit on top of it to try, because it's going to keep going that way. So before you get to the spot you want to come back just to counteract it. Yep. There you go. Yeah, and you don't need two hands. You just have your one right. When you're flying over here, you're just going to use your left. But we're clear across 27. And that was the whole short line, so if we weren't cleared across, that's where we would have stopped. Yep. I'm going to check some stuff real quick. Air flaps are working. Okay, cool. All right, so as we're moving along, you can kind of feel that we're moving pretty fast. I'm going to turn the GPS on. So what we're going to do for that is what you do is just take the throttle back because we're not at a point where we need to turn yet. So we'll just take the throttle off and let it keep carrying us down the runway. Yep, come back to there you go, right there. And yeah, like your plan is to try to get that stripe in between the hinges on the cowl, and that's basically going to keep. It's going to feel like it's off center because you're sitting not on center, so it's going to look a little weird. But yeah, just kind of like that. But pretty simple once you get the hang of it. Yep, keep them coming. Yeah, exactly. So just a little bit of a brake. So all right, I got the airplane back. Yeah. So I'm going to start setting up for the run-up. So if you want to look at that checklist. And then when you brake, you got to hit both of them or else you're going to go like off to the side. So you try to hit both of them evenly. And then this right here is a run-up area. So what you do is you just kind of come over here. And what it does is allow your prop wash to go off and not like in behind the person and hit the person behind you. And when we're doing this, since it's a free cast string, like you can see we turn really tight, but before we're almost done, what we do is come back to the left, and what we're trying to do is get that nose wheel straight, because we don't want to put a lot of pressure on the nose wheel sideways. Yep. And what you're going to do is you're going to want to hold this kind of about where that second bolt is in here, because then that's a neutral position on the elevator, so it's less of a strain on any of this stuff back there. Okay? So and then what we're going to do is check our mags. So this is where we go back to the ignition switch. So we're going to go to left and make sure there's like not 150 RPM drop. So yeah, and then go back to the right, and then make sure there's not like more than 50 RPM drop between the two, and we're right at 40. And that can be a factor of the wind and all that kind of stuff. So, and then what's next?
RP.
Yep, so what we're going to do is pull this out and make sure there's an RPM drop. If there's not an RPM drop, that basically says we have carb icing, so you need to leave it out. So, and that's something we'll have to, like, not a crazy thing to worry about right now, but yeah, you can feel the wind affecting it.
Next throttle time.
Okay, so before we do that, what we need to make sure is all our instruments are good in the green at 1800 RPM. So this is close to like takeoff, so we're going to look at your suction. Make sure it's near the green. You're not going to completely get green unless you're full throttle. Your oil pressure is in the green, and then our oil temperature, yep, it's coming up, and the oil temperature is not right here, so it's reverse sensing, so it'd say it's getting colder when it's really getting hotter. And then what you're going to do is make sure you're at 0 or it's slightly charging the battery back up, which this is verified here where it says 13.9. We have a 14-volt battery. Okay, so, and then we go to idle. And then we're just making sure it runs. Like that. All the way back, yep. And that, basically the run up. Okay, so before takeoff, so a microphone is this thing right here that we were talking on that one time we were flying. Yep. So that's that. And then basically what we're going to do is kind of flow around this way. So then we're going to make sure our trim, with two of us, I try to put it in between the T and the O. That you can kind of see that little bar right there that shows you where it's the indicator bar, that little white thing, kind of shows you where it's at. When I'm flying by myself, I bring it further forward just because it helps me stay on the runway a little bit longer. Okay, so that's that. And then, let's see, primer knob, we're going to make sure it's locked so you can basically pull on that. Basically what we're trying to do is making sure this doesn't come out because basically that could starve some fuel to the motor. And then fuel tanks. So for this, I'm leaving on the right tank for this because it's from taxiing. Right now is probably not a great time to switch because it takes about 4 minutes for the fuel to completely go out of the bowl into the other engine. So if you're sitting here with the instructor and you're running through there and you knew it was going to take a little bit, it's okay to switch to the other tank, all that kind of stuff. But if you're getting ready to go to take off, just leave it on that tank if they're both full. Yep, and fuel pump on. Cool. That's that. So I'm going to do, and then one thing I don't have on there, yep, and see this just reiterating. So what I do is just run through the checklist real quick. Yep, it's on. Open. Yeah, it basically is reminding you of what you're going to do, and then when we go to take off, we put the checklist away and not look at this, and this is just like all memory stuff.
50, 5 and 60.
Yeah. So when it says raise the nose, what you're going to start takeoff, you're going to want that kind of in that position, giving you that neutral. And as you're going to slowly bring this to just past this right here. And what it's going to do is take pressure off the nose. You'll feel when we come to land, if I let the nose wheel touch too quickly, it's going to wobble like really bad. So what you're trying to do is take that wobble out and take the pressure off that nose wheel.
And I'm speed.
Yeah. So this is for obstacle clearance. So if we got like a tree at the end of the runway, and we're trying to get over it, that's about the speed. And that's like our, I think it's VY, which is our best climb speed. And it's getting hot, so I'm going to turn my vent on.
So normal climb speed, that just, that's the speed trying to get off the ground.
No, that's the speed, like once we get off the ground, that I'm trying to get before we're starting to climb, because we don't have any obstacles to worry about, and this is like the best speed to climb to ensure that our engine stays cool. Yep. Because this will make our engine run hotter. So what basically you do is you fly that till you're over the obstacle, and then you lower the nose and then speed up to 100. Okay? Yep. Yeah, so VX is what our best climb. Best rate is VY. So, okay. So as long as you're between 190, you're going to be good. So, cool. That's it. Yep. And then what you can do is you can just put the checklist. You got a little pocket down there. You can put it down there. And I'm going to call it tower. Everything's looking good to me. All right. Let me make sure. Where's my airplane? Why is this not showing my airplane? Because it's not connected to Stratus. So that's one thing to check. Connect to the Stratus is just like connecting to Wi-Fi. No, it says it's connected. Why is it not giving me GPS location? Okay, there it goes. So then what you're looking for is that little blue dot. And once you start moving, it looks like an airplane.
Okay.
So, and then here at Mathis, what we're going to do is you taxi up to this line because they have radio issues. So what we're trying to do is get better reception for the radio, so they can actually talk to us. And yeah, their name is Mathis, not San Angelo. They've yelled at me for that. Mathis Tower, Grumman 6034 Lima is holding short of runway 18, ready for takeoff.
Grumman 6034 Lima, Tower runway 18, clear for takeoff, wind 19014, gust 22.
Clear for takeoff, runway 18, Grumman 6034 Lima. Yeah, he was just verifying the wind for us, for the wind speed. And what do I do? So the actual runway doesn't start till almost where that thing is, but that when we're taking off, that doesn't mean we can't like start picking up speed. When we land, we can't land till the threshold markers. So that's what these arrows indicate, is like a non-landing but able to take off type thing. So, and so what I'm going to do is it's coming from the right, so I'm going to put some right crosswind correction in, and then slowly give it throttle. And then when I get the full throttle, I'm going to lock it in. And then what I'm going to do is like making sure everything's in the green. Everything's good there. It sounds like it's running good. Yeah, you can feel that wind there. So there's 70 knots, 75 or miles an hour. There's 80. So there we go. And then now, because of that, we're going to crab. And so that's going to make it look like we're flying a little weird, like that. But we're basically flying straight. So, and then you saw me lock that in, right? Yeah. Okay.
Intro gravitation tango is current.
Basically, you started to slowly go to the throttle. You went full throttle, locked it in.
Yep.
And once you got to about, started to pull up.
Yeah. So I had some little bit of back pressure in it, to kind of see. Yeah, it's going to tell me my oil temperature is low, but you can see this is our real primary. Our oil temperature is good. So. And I'm going to ask for a right turn here in a second. But so yeah, trying to keep that pressure off that nose, and then yeah, about 80, 83 is when it felt like I wanted to fly. I didn't want to force it too much because with the gust. So you're just kind of keeping it there, and then when you know the speeds, you're at a safe speed to take off. Then you're like, okay, let's get up in the air. So yeah, hopefully it clears up when we get a little higher. And request a right turn to the north, ground 604 Mulliman.
American 34 Lima, proceed as discussed.
Proceed on course, ground 6034 Lima. So then he clears for a right turn, so what I'm going to do is start this right turn here. And see, I'm keeping it at 100 miles an hour, and I got a hot cylinder. Huh. It's not really hot, it's just hotter than the other ones. So, should be good. It'll come down here in a second. So, when you're looking at your engine instruments, it's for this new thing, it's really sensitive, so it's going to read it a little bit hotter than what it actually is. But if these numbers ever get to like 430 for your cylinder head temperatures, that's when we're like, oh crap, we need to make a landing. So on takeoff, if it ever get that hot, that's when you're like, okay, we're in the spot that if it keeps climbing like that, we're going to be in actual real danger. 450 is when you're like, oh crap, yeah, we need to get down. If it gets up to 500, you're going to declare an emergency and say, hey, I need to land. I'm getting really hot oil or engine temperatures. So as you can see, it's already coming down. And how am I doing? I'm helping it keep down. I'm actually speeding up my climb. So then I'm not climbing as fast up, but I'm getting more air into the cowling. So. So yeah, you can see it's already come down almost 6 degrees. So let's go to the north. I'm going to go up to the racetrack, up to the north. Okay. And so we'll do some maneuvering here. If you want to fly, what we're going to do is try to keep it at about 105 miles an hour and just kind of keep this heading right here. And you got the airplane.
So how are you maintaining the speed? Or is like climb?
Yeah, it's basically moving the yoke back and forth. So the further back you pull it, the slower we're going to go. And the more you keep it down, the faster we're going to go. So yeah, you can lower it up. Yeah, lower to speed it up. And basically it just means we're climbing a little bit slower. We're almost 1,000 feet above the ground. So kind of that white building out there to the left, kind of away from those other white buildings, just kind of aim toward that. You have the road that's going north.
Yeah,
north. Okay, just to kind of aim toward that, and that'll keep us away from the airport here, so that for arrivals and such.
once you're up in the airspace, you cleared, just what's your altitude to be?
So he controls altitude up to 4,500 feet. So basically, once we get above that, we're not in his airspace, or we get outside this little like dotted line right there. We're no longer controlled by him. I'm going to leave it on his frequency because we're going to come back to him. And just for something crazy happens, this is the only airport that's like super close, so that we can at least communicate with somebody and let things know. So what we're going to do is we're going to climb up to 5,000, and hopefully the air will get a little bit smoother so that we can actually do some stuff. And so this is typically, on a lesson, this is typically how you would take off if you're leaving the airspace. Now, if you're staying in the pattern, basically what you do is you'd climb to 1,000 feet, and then you'd fly like what's called a traffic pattern. And basically we're making a box around the runway. And when we come back, if it's not too crazy, I'll see if we can get some patterns so you can kind of see what that's like.
Okay.
And then when we're coming back, I'll let you fly kind of the approach until we get kind of close to the runway. And the reason I'm coming north is because we're basically going to have a straight into 1.8 on the way back. So we're not doing any crazy maneuvers and all that kind of stuff. So I'll let you fly it. I'll talk you through setting it all up so you can set everything else up. And then I'll control kind of some stuff over here. But the throttle, mixture, all this kind of stuff is yours to control. Okay. So we got another 1,000 feet to go. As you can see, we got some clouds that are a little below us. But when we're flying VFR, we can't fly through clouds. So there's, what is it called? 3-2-1 rule. Basically, we want to stay 1,000 feet above the clouds, or if we're flying below, we got to stay below 500 feet below the bottom of the clouds, and then yeah, it's a 5-3-1 rule is what it is. There's other, depending on weather conditions, there's other rules that apply, and then you want to stay 300 feet laterally of them. So basically, what that does, these clouds are thin enough we could actually fly through them because we can see through them. Type thing. So yeah, you're doing good. One thing I would suggest as it gets hotter as you're climbing, just every now and then just pull the mixture out just a little bit because that gives us a little bit more power. And then I'll show you how to lean it off in air versus leaning it off on the ground. Because on the ground, basically we're going to lean it off till it almost stumbles, and then we're going to bump it up, bumping more power or bumping more fuel in.
Air, you don't want it to stumble.
Right. Yep. Nope. So what you're doing is you're looking. There's a couple ways you can do it. Some people just fly it like wide open throttle, full mixture. That's just, you're burning a lot of extra gas and you're not actually getting the power that you need. So when we're going to fly, what we're going to do, I'm going to show you the easy way, is we're going to lean the mixture back until we get max RPM. So then that means we're making max power. And then once you get more familiar with the airplane, I'll show you some other ways to do it. There's, like, we can look at exhaust temperature numbers and cylinder head temperature numbers to get a better mixture and lean it out a little bit more.
So we're almost at 4,800.
Yeah, so about 100 feet to go. What you can do is like slowly leveling it off a little bit, and then what we'll do is we'll start picking up speed, and so you have to keep pushing more in. So that's when you want to use your trim here. So to put nose down is you're going to want to bring it forward to get more.
Winds 20019.
Aft is bringing trim back.
Understand you have tango.
So, yeah. So now you can kind of start leveling off here, and what you want to try to do when you know you're close to level is this is going to be close to 0. So yeah, you can start pushing it forward. And then you can start spinning this wheel forward
0223
to kind of take some pressure off. Because as we speed up, it's going to be harder. You're going to put more in. Yep. Okay. Yep. Let it speed up for a second.
More trim now.
Yeah. You can bring it back a little bit further. Yep. Yep. Yeah. And yeah. It's going to take a little bit to get used to like correcting that because it is super sensitive. So. Okay, and then one way to help is the RPM that we're setting. So basically this translates to how much power we're giving it. And so the more power we get it, the airplane wants to climb. So what you can do is you can start taking, so you can unlock this and bring the power back. We'll fly it at 2,500 RPM. That's a good power setting. And then this would be, and then we can lock it in so that it's not moving until we're ready for everything else so that the thing doesn't retract or go forward. So this is an instance where, as you're flying, you can pull out your checklist, because then we're going to do our cruise checklist.
I feel like I need to fit, like one to dive if I don't pull back.
Okay, then what you can do is just bring it back a little bit. Yeah, because the trim is also super sensitive in this airplane, kind of like its controls. Yeah, so you don't want to like spin it a lot. You just want to.
Because it was like I was having to like hold it back.
Okay, yeah. If it's doing that, then then you can maneuver your trim it. Try. What you're trying to do is take out pressure. So yeah. Okay, you still have the airplane. So. Okay.
Had to grab the checklist.
Yep. So now that we're cruising, so we're going to do the cruise checklist here.
Okay.
Yep, so you're going to flick it off, and what we're going to watch for is making sure that the fuel pressure just doesn't all of a sudden plummet. If it plummets, that means we have a engine-driven fuel pump failure, and then what you're going to do is you're going to flick it back on, and we're going to go back to San Angelo. So, but see, it's holding, so it's going to stay around 5-ish, so then we know that our engine-driven fuel pump is good.
Okay. And power setting, 2200.
Yep. And so with the power setting, now we're going to lean it off. So how we're going to do that is you can slowly start bringing the mixture back, and what we're going to do is look for max RPM.
So what's max RPM?
Yeah, you can see, just keep pulling it back a little bit. So you can see 53, 50, 25, 50, 40. Oh, yep, 60. Oh, and then now you're gone on the other side. So now you can push it back in to get close to that 25, 80. Yep, you can just bump it in just a little bit. You can probably bump it in just one more. Okay. So then when you're doing that, a number, a typical number in these blue, you're just a kind of a rule of thumb. It's not like any hard or fast. You're going to look for about 14, 80, 70 for your exhaust gas temperature. That's a good indication that you're running a really good mixture in this airplane. So from the times that I've flown, that's kind of like when I'm leaning it out. That 1480, 1470, 1460 is like a good number, and you're getting your max power there. So, and then that's your cruise checklist is done.
Enough?
Yep. This airplane's super easy because there's not any super complicated stuff in here. So what we're going to do is the racetrack's right here. So like if you want to fly it over there. Oh yeah.
What you said?
Yep, just fly it over this way. And then the key thing while we're flying is try to keep it close to that 5,000. And then we're just going to constantly scan for traffic because we're VFR, so we're going to keep looking for traffic. Good thing about this area is there's hardly any traffic ever.
And usually patients on.
Yeah, it doesn't get us all the traffic, but it'll give us a good 99% solution for that. Oh no, yeah, when you're flying, you can take your shoulder harness off. The only time it's not required to fly, I would suggest you flying with your shoulder harness is when you're doing maneuvers or you're landing or taking off. Okay. So that would be the only time you would absolutely should fly with it. Other than that, it doesn't really matter. So what we're going to do, so San Angelo was about 2,000 feet above MSL. We're about 3,000 feet above the ground right now. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you some basic stuff that you're going to have to do. So do you still have your shoulder harness on? I can put it. You can keep it loose. Just keep it on because I'm going to show you some stalls real quick. All right, I have the airplane. So stalls is one of the big things that you're going to train to. And any time before you do any maneuvers, you're going to plan as if you're going to have some sort of issue with it. So you set up the airplane in the best position possible. And how you're going to do that is with the same stuff we do before we're landing. So what we do is we go mixture full forward, fuel pump on. So that making sure that we have no issue with potential fuel problems. So I'm going to get back up to 5,000. What we're going to do is a power off stall. Have you ever done a stall on an airplane before? Nope. So what's going to happen is you're going to hear our stall warning horn come on. When we flew with Matt, you heard it come on a little bit when we were taking off because I was max performing the airplane. So you hear that come on. If I will tell you, you can kind of put your hand on when we're getting close to the stall, you can kind of feel it, and what you're going to feel is like a buffet, it's going back and forth, and that's right before we stall. This airplane sometimes wants to brake where the nose will come down, and sometimes it won't. It just depends. I've had both where it does and doesn't. It just depends. So since we're over the track, this is if something crazy happens, we have the ability to emergency land right here. So before you do any maneuvers, you're going to want to clear the airspace. So what we're going to do is we're going to go left, clear left, and then we're going to, this right here is a 30-degree turn, and how I know that is on this, 45. 45 is this outer one here. This far one out here is 60. So we're going to do, this is a 45-degree turn.
That's because mine is...
Right. yep. So when I level off, you're going to see it's coming back. So center is that center one. So what you got is you got 15, 30, 45, those little lines in between. And what you do is try to put it in between here. So we're going to go back to the right, and we're looking for traffic, and that 45-degree turn right there. Kind of lock that in. And when you're turning, you're going to want to put some back pressure because you're taking some of that lift off, so you're counteracting that.
Going down?
Right, yep, exactly.
So,
and I'm going to actually turn back around this way.
what's the limits of like how far you don't want?
Okay, so VFR, 45's good, but we can do a 60-degree turn too. You're not going to do more than 60. And then one thing you want to look about when you're turning is this little ball, which is basically telling you what the tail is doing. You want to keep that ball between these two lines, because that means we're as close to like all level going or in the same direction. Our tail's not trying to like skid or slip or do any kind of things like that. Those terms you'll hear more. Here, I'm going to do a 60-degree turn so just so you can feel it. I'm going to go back to the left here, and then you're going to see how far back I have to pull the stick to kind of maintain level. To the left, going left. And then you can kind of feel the G's that I had to put on it to,
oh yeah,
keep that. And that's because I let the nose come down. So now, as you can see, I lost like 200 feet because I didn't put the back pressure in right away. And that literally was like 1.5 G's. So now that we cleared the airspace, what I'm going to do is we're going to set up for a stall, and we're going to do it's going to simulate a landing stall. So basically, the motor is going to be quiet. It's still going to be running, but it's going to be basically at idle while we're flying. And so I'm going to do that when we get back up here. And so when we land, you're going to see me set some power settings. And this is kind of a good way to kind of talk about that. When we're getting ready to set up the land, once we've got our landing site figured out, when we're beam that, and if we do patterns, that'll make more sense. What we're going to do is we're going to bring the throttle back to 1500. And what that does is allow us to slow down while also coming down. In this stall situation, I'm not going to come down. What I'm going to try to do is maintain level attitude. When you're landing, what you're going to try to do is get 500 feet per minute, because that's going to get you down and around the pattern the right way. And then you kind of see, you can kind of feel the tail dancing around a little bit. So there's our stall horn. And so when I hear that, I'm going to take the throttle all the way out. Okay, put your hand, just feel it. You see Philip Buffett kind of right there?
Yeah.
And then the nose kind of wants to drop. So that's a stall. This airplane, they're very benign. Not had any crazy stalls. So what you do is then you just lower the nose, get that stall horn off, get it full power, and then climb back up to 5,000. Okay. So that's a stall. A lot of people are freaked out about them because they're like, oh, the airplane quit flying. Well, it kind of did. It just wasn't producing enough lift to stay at the altitude we're at. So basically what it's doing, it's seeking airspeed to then continue flying. That's all it is. Sometimes Cessna, sometimes the nose drops really aggressively. This one, it does not. So, which is really nice. I'm glad about it.
That was super cool.
Yeah. So we'll do it again. So I'll get up to 5,000 here, and then I'll bring it back to 1,500. And anytime you do stalls, you want to give yourself a safety margin. So I'm going to come back over to the left here, get back close to the track. So we have an out. And I'm going to start bringing the throttle back. And then after this, I'll kind of show you a slow flight here in a second, what that's like. Slow flight is also one that it actually takes a little bit of time to master and get good at it, because the airplane is super behind the power curve, but you can keep it flying, but it flies really, really mushy is the best way to describe it. All right, so there's 15. Airspace is clear. So what I'm going to do is just keep letting that airspeed come off. So I got that stall warning horn, and what I'm trying to do is keep this as close to 5,000 as possible. And I don't know if you felt that the tail kind of kicked out. So then I put in some right rudder right there. So there's stall warning horn. This airplane wants to go to the right a little bit, and depending on your instructor, if you go with the bigger guy that I gave you his card for, it's going to want to go to the right because he's much heavier. See, this one doesn't want to really stall this time because I'm bringing. There we go. Really benign brake, and when the nose comes down like that, that's when it's like actually stalled, kind of type thing. So
when you're flying in the airspace, are you rudder much at all?
You're not supposed to, because the airplane should be trimmed off enough with that trim tab on the back that you shouldn't have to do rudder. This airplane is something I'm going to get fixed. It likes to kick out to the right side a little bit. So to actually fly straight, you need just a tiny bit of right rudder to keep it straight.
So if that black line is going right, then right.
Yeah. So if I kick right, so you can kind of see the tail kick off there. So whichever way the ball goes, that's what you step on.
Okay, that's simple.
Yeah. You step. They call it stepping on the ball. So there. So now we're getting close to about the 5,000 again. What I'm gonna do is kind of similar to that stall, about 1,500 RPMs. But as the stall horn comes on, as it gets closer, as we get the speed down, I'm actually going to give it throttle. And what we're going to try to do is keep it slow. I don't think we're going to get it flying backwards today. I don't think the wind's strong enough. So there it comes on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to keep it right about 75 miles an hour. And try to keep my altitude. So you can hear me bringing that throttle back in. And what we're going to try to do is keep that 5,000. And your throttle is basically what keeps your altitude. So if you're losing altitude, you got to give it more throttle. Your pitch is what keeps your airspeed. And that it comes into play too when you go to landing. So this is a good practice for like landing. Yeah. So there's 75 miles an hour. Across the ground, we're going 43. So if the wind was strong enough this way, we could actually fly backwards.
So it's 75 the stall speed?
The 75 is when my stall horn comes on, and it's all dependent on weight. So when we flew with Matt, the stall horn was coming on at like 82 because we were at like max. So since it's just us two, it's coming on a lot more. It comes on about 5-ish miles an hour from what I've seen, 5 to 10 miles an hour, just depending, before we actually stall. So it's a good indication, oh, we're getting close to stall. I should be aware of what's going on. We're still getting, like, I can get really good performance out of the airplane this way if, like, I was taking off. So if there's a tree out there, you know that 75 miles an hour that was in the book for obstacle clearance, your stall horn's going to be on because you're trying to get over that tree, so you're trying to get the max performance out of the airplane as possible. So you're trying to get as far off the ground with as little forward momentum as possible so that you can increase your chance of getting over that tree.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
You're going slower forward, but you're faster.
Correct. Yep, absolutely. Because in this position, if I gave it full power, we'd probably get close to 500 or 700 feet per minute. We'd get really good. So as you can see, it's all, you know, pretty benign here. Now where it gets a little tricky is like, oh yeah, I think I got this like slow flight thing. You can like trim it off so you basically could fly without even touching, just like in normal any altitude. It's the same thing. You're just changing all the parameters. Is when you start doing turns, and there I got a little bit slower. So then just lower the nose to increase that speed. So then once you start turning, you don't want to do any aggressive turn because when you start banking the airplane, your stall speed goes up. So by me banking like 15 degrees, my stall speed increased by like 5 miles an hour. So what you're going to try to do is it's like a lazy like turn type thing, and they'll tell you like, you know, a heading or something to go to. So you're just like a super like bushy like turn type thing like this. And typically, oh, there I let my speed come down. So then it's like just you're messing with it to make sure you don't stall. So sometimes if you have a good instructor and you get really comfortable with it, they'll be like, okay, slow flight, cool. Now let's do a power off stall. So what you do is then you just keep all this in, go to 1500, and then let it stall. Just keep that altitude. As you can see, we're at 60 miles an hour. We haven't stalled yet. And there we go. So the stall horn came on 15 miles an hour before we stalled. Okay. So you got a lot of leeway with that stall horn. I may actually have, when I get my annual done, have them look at it because I feel like it comes on earlier than it should. But I mean, at least knowing that stuff now, I at least know what I can do with my airplane.
Yeah, you've got a lot more leeway.
Exactly. Yep. So, okay. So those are some of the more complex things you do in your private, is that slow flight and stalls and stuff like that. Those are the things that are most scary to people. Did I show you like any engine out like type stuff? Yeah. When we flew before. So basically you'll be flying along. You'll be fat, dumb, and happy. You're like, oh, this is a great day to fly. Everything's going great. Everything looks good. And then your instructor will go this. And then what you got to do is you got to figure out where you're going to land in an engine out scenario. So what you'll do is you'll find a spot. Say we're going to go back to the track, but we got 3,000 feet, so we got a lot of time to then set up because we're like really close to that track. So what we're going to do is then we try to get the motor to restart. So then you run through some stuff. So you like switch fuel tanks. You'll simulate it because you don't really want to do that because then you could create an actual emergency situation. Your airspeed in this airplane for best glide is 90 miles an hour. So what you want to trim it off to where you're at 90 miles an hour. I'm like at 85 so I can lower the nose just a little bit. Your instructor will play with this just a little bit because at certain RPMs it creates more drag and all, like he'll know what to do. Oop, I switched them. So what you do is like, okay, I'm gonna try to land on this big run, this long road right here. So I'm gonna set it up like I'm gonna do like a normal landing. So what you do is you just kind of circle or position yourself that you can come around and make a landing. I'm actually gonna do one of these because I haven't done one of these in this airplane. So you can kind of see what's going on. And it's great because we got a really, really long runway. So if we misjudge it, we got a long way to get down. So you're going to try to keep 90 miles an hour. In this position, you don't really need to keep 90 miles an hour because you already got your landing spot made. You're just trying to then position yourself to ensure that you can make that landing. So what we're trying to do is setting up so that when we come back around, we're about 900 feet above the ground, so then come back around and land. So I got about 2,000 feet here, so I got another 1,000 feet before I have to be in that position to come back around. So try to get about... Yeah, exactly. So what I'm trying to do is restart the engine. So we simulate, I would switch the fuel tanks, make sure full forward, fuel pumps on, and then I'm going to try to start the motor. So I'd hit the starter. If my engine was not windmilling, you hit the starter. So then I'm going to, as you can see, I'm going to have to try to bring this back around now because I got 800 feet to be in position.
So if your engine actually did cut off, you'd be maintaining this, what you're doing right now?
Yep, exactly. I would make a radio call, be like, mayday, 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 engine failure, Grumman 6034 Lima, 2 souls on board, red, white.
It would be this calm?
No, it would not. Nope, it would not. I would be a little frantic.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, it would be this calm of a flight. You could still maintain...
Yeah, if you maintain the speed, the only issue, the reason I wouldn't be calm is you making it not calm. So as you can see here, this is almost perfect. And when I trained, they would stop it at 1,000 feet for your setup. So this is almost perfect, but I got a long runway here. So what I'm going to do is like actually turn it, and then I'll let it get slow there. And there was wind shear. So about right here, they'll be like, okay, yeah, you got the runway made. Let's go. And then you put the power back in to ensure that like your airplane will actually fly away. In case there was an actual emergency, you'd be like, oh, we got it all set up perfectly. We would just continue turning, and then we landed on one of those roads. Something like that. The far road, I brought us too far out. The close road would have been what we turned into. So, and it's also super long. So that's like an engine failure simulation type thing. And they're just making sure that you have the ability to, if you have an engine failure, to get it down on the ground in a safe manner. Because people, like when they have an engine failure in flight, their issue is they pick a spot and then they can't make it. So what they do is they get slower and slower and slower, and then they stall the airplane like 100 feet off the ground, and then they kill themselves because they didn't control the airplane. It's better to land faster than it is to land slow, like stall it before landing. You're trying to get it in a position that you just have a normal landing with normal landing speeds. But if like we were landing out in the field, what we would try to do is we would do a normal approach, and then we would as we got really, really close to the ground, what I'm trying to do is get the tail to hit first, because that would dissipate a lot of energy, especially if I have trees coming up fast. So you stay in control, and then right when you touch down, you bring the stick back when you're like basically have no energy. Make sure the tail hits first before your actual landing gear does. It bleeds off some energy, so when you hit the ground, you have a lot less energy dissipate. Then you just get on the brakes like really, really hard. Unless like this, where there's a road, it's just like a normal landing. Yeah, stuff like that. And then some people will also have the problem of picking a road that has power lines along the side, which can be very dangerous by hitting the power post and all that kind of stuff. So, or power line post stuff. Oh, they're actually out doing training. So, if you can have the airplane if you want to climb it back to 5,000. And so, as you can see, the oil temperature went back up because we cooled it off. So it's now saying it's warmer than it was when we were flying. When it's actually cooler because we're getting closer to 75. So, yeah, and so this is 90 miles an hour, so I was climbing really slow, so you can lower the nose a little bit. But yeah, so that's some of the more stuff you have to get down before you actually do a solo. Is the landing and then stalls and then emergency scenarios type stuff. The maneuvers in the field and all the other kind of stuff is not that big of a deal. When you go do your, like that stuff after you would do your solo, that you have to get really good at. You do it before your solo, just so you have familiarity with the aircraft's maneuvering and all that other kind of stuff. We may not actually want to stay out too long. The clouds are building up, which sucks. We don't want to like have a broken layer below us and we can't get through. But
so I'm having to put a lot of pressure. So should I bring it?
So which way are you putting pressure?
Having to put a lot of pressure this direction.
Yep. So bring the wheel forward.
Okay, the trim wheel.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I had it trimmed pretty far back when we were doing slow flight, and as you can see now, it brought the nose down pretty good. So there you go. Yep. Yeah. And if you just want to level off at 5,000, set it up, and what we'll do is do that cruise checklist that we did when after we took off when we got up to 5,000 originally. So trim it off. And then you'll set your power about 2,500.
So climbing.
Yep. So then and it's going to keep climbing as you speed up.
Okay. So now when I bring my power back,
and I locked it in so you can unlock it.
It'll stop climbing.
Yep. You can do that. And you can do 24, you can do 23, you can do whatever RPM you want. Yep. So that'll help you kind of level off there. And then once you're comfortable, like you've leveled off good, then you can do your fuel pumps off. Yep. And then, yep, it stayed there. And then now you can start at, yep, you're climbing again.
So to stop climbing, I just need to bring power back.
So what you're going to do is you're going to set cruise power, so whatever you want to cruise at. So if you want to cruise at 2,400, you would set that power, and then what you're doing is slowly just keep pushing that nose forward, because you want to make sure that power is in transferred to airspeed. So you can see the airspeed's going up, so then it's going to want to climb again. So you just kind of keep slowly just finagling it to get, and what you're going to see is we're going to be in a speed between like 110 and 120 once we're like level.
Okay.
Type thing. So the power is if you were leveling off and you were above, say we want to cruise at 2,400 and we were at 25, what you do is you bring it back to 24. Like that, lock it in, then adjust everything, and then now that we're kind of in an equilibrium state is now when we want to do the mixture. So you can kind of start bringing that mixture back to trying to trim it.
I'm bringing it back to 1470.
Roughly. Since we're at a different power setting, it may be a little bit lower, but first you're going to look at the RPMs to get that max RPM.
What was the max that we're shooting for?
It's going to be dependent every single time. So you saw, yep, and you can push it back in. So 2440 was what we saw, and it's going to be about the 1460-ish. So, yep, so there you go. If you want to make a turn back toward the right, because we're getting close to the city again. Yep. And anytime you turn like that, you may want to just bump whatever rudder you're going with just a tiny bit, because that'll make sure that we kind of stay level. Because you kind of see, from your angle you may not be able to see it, but our ball is kind of off to the right just a little bit. Okay. So you can just hit the rudder just a little bit, just hold it there. And that's going to help you greatly if you're able to start getting that habit pattern down early. It's going to help you later on.
Turn quick like that.
Say what now?
You turn quick.
You do turn quicker, but you don't put rudder in to turn quicker. You turn rudder in to maintain coordination, and you turn quicker because you're flying coordinated. Okay. So you're flying the most efficient manner. Just imagine the airplane flying like this. You're flying super efficient, but if your tail's cocked like this, but you're still going straight, you're not flying in a super aerodynamic efficient manner. So that's just making sure that you stay kind of in that most efficient position as possible. Yeah, if you just want to bring it back to the track, we can do that. I have a feeling like with this instructor, if I was an instructor, I would love doing stuff around this track. It's like
the perfect out.
Oh, it's a perfect out, and you got like these long straights to do like do different things. There's great stuff for like turns around to point, like everything for private you could do like right here. It's like perfect setup. And there's no traffic out here, ever, which is great. So yeah, you're climbing again. Yep, there you go. So we'll fly out here for another about 10 minutes or so, because these clouds are actually starting to build up pretty good here. So that gives us some time to do some stuff in San Angelo, so I can show you some different landings and stuff beforehand. Okay. So, what would you like to do for the next 10 minutes?
I don't know, man. I feel like you've covered a lot as far as like what they cover in the class. So.
Yeah. So if we want to get over here, we can do some like 40-degree turns, just so you can kind of get an idea of what you have to do to maintain your altitude, as well as like coordination and how it feels like actually in control of the airplane. Okay. And so since we've been doing maneuvers and we've been on and out the throttle, according to this, we only use 6.8 gallons. And we've flown, like, you now have, this would be, since we started the airplane the first time when I was sitting over here, we've had the airplane on for an hour. Yeah. Not bad at all? Yep. And the more maneuvers you do, and the more you do them in succession, the less fuel you're going to use, because you're going to be climbing up, doing things, stalling, recover, and so you're going to, like, give it power, take it off. Give it power, take it off. Back and forth. So, yeah, so like most flight schools and stuff like that, they don't take into consideration. They're like an hour typically burns 10 gallons an hour, and it costs us this much at our home airport to put fuel in. So it doesn't matter how much you actually use, this is what we're charging you. Yep, yep. Which if you're doing cross country and stuff like that, it's perfect, because you can actually burn more fuel and get faster speeds, but you're not being charged for it type thing. So yeah, it just depends on what you want to do, which one works out best. So, and right now, the way we got it set up, according to this, my thing, it overestimates how much fuel we've actually used and how we're burning per hour. I've got to make some adjustments for that, but it's saying we're burning between like 8.9 and 9.1 gallons an hour. Okay. Yeah. At where we're at right now. So, yeah, if you want to do a turn to the left and try to get it the 45 as close as you're comfortable, and try to maintain about 5,400.
So it's pitching it, pulling back at the same time.
Yep, yep, yep. And you pitched up just a little much, because now we're climbing about 500 feet per minute.
Okay, so I want to keep that at 0, right?
You want to keep it as close to 0, and then keep this as close to that 45. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not doing enough.
Yep. Now, and then this instrument lags, so it's going to be lagging behind. So when it starts moving the other way, you're going to want to put the opposite correction in, if you're watching that. Okay. And then what you're looking for, like in this situation, from what I can tell right now, from my position where I'm sitting, is the horizon is basically almost on this side of the cow. And you put it there, you're going to be super close, and then you can look at the instruments and modify. With your private, the instructor's going to be like, keep looking outside, looking for that picture, because you set that picture, you can glance inside and be like, cool, my picture's right. From your seat, it may look completely different, because when we go back the other way, if you want to level off here and come back the other way, the horizon's probably going to be close to this side of the cow for you, okay, for that 45-degree bank. Which, from my position, the horizon is like over here for me. But from your seat, it probably is pretty close to that.
Yeah, right on the cow.
Yeah, yeah. So it's going to look like that going the other way from you.
Yeah, that makes it way easier. Yeah, I'm able to just
and then you can bring it back just a little bit, because now we're descending just a little bit. Yeah, those visual references greatly help us get you set up for it. And then you can modify by looking at the instruments. So for your training, that's going to be kind of what you're going to shoot for, is visually making it look right, verified by instruments. If instruments aren't verifying what I'm seeing outside, modifying my picture outside to get it to do it. And then back outside, back inside real quick, like type that. Yeah.
That makes it.
Yeah. I need to actually modify. Actually, that's not too bad. So my compass in here is not 100% correct. It's a mad compass, and I've got new electronics, and it messes it up. This right here is how you determine which heading you're going, and you can push this in and modify it and change it. Because it's a vacuum system, so these two instruments are running off this vacuum pump. It's kind of like an INS, it drifts. So you kind of have to keep modifying it, and what I do is go by my track on my iPad, and it's not going to show, this is showing my true north heading versus my mag. So it's like, this is supposed to be mag, but it's off by like 10 degrees or so. So I just try to,
So what is heading on the airfield, true or magnetic?
The airfield's going to be on magnetic. So everything's supposed to be magnetic, but since my mag compass is kind of wonky, I'm going off true to kind of position it. And as you can see, it's close enough for government work. It's close enough for VFR. So what you want to, this slowly drifts every now and then. So what you want to do is just double check it to make sure they're somewhat close to one another. And as you take power in and out, this is going to drift more the less suction it has. So when we were doing all those maneuvers, it was drifting a lot quicker than if it was like where it is now on the green. Yeah.
And so how do we know our altitude above the ground? Constantly a calculation? Or?
It is a constant calculation. Fortunately, on the East Coast, it's pretty easy because most everything is about 100, 200 feet from...
I'm going to pitch back this way away from the clouds.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, right now we're plenty clear of it right now. It's just if you don't want to do whatever, like keep close to the track, that's completely fine. Yeah, so that's good. Everything's looking good up there. Yep, you're coming back down to the 5500. Yep. Then you can now give it a little bit of back pressure to kind of arrest that descent. Perfect, man. And then you can like arrest the descent and then come up off the back pressure. Yep, and then just level off. Yep. Cool. So I know via this airfield that San Angelo is basically 2,000 feet MSL. This instrument reads MSL, and hence reading off density altitude.
So we're at 3,600 feet
above the ground. Yep, absolutely. So as you're going to see flying, you're going to want to round up to worst case scenario and use big round numbers that make it super simple for math. Especially when you have an emergency situation, you want those easy numbers to remember. So that's why I like 90, even though basically the best glide for this airplane is like 86. You can't really see that, so we shoot for 90.
Yeah.
Between 85 and 90, and you're good. So that's why I wasn't too concerned about 85 miles an hour or whatnot. So trying to keep those round numbers and making sure everything's good. But as you're doing like across country, what you can do is you can go to the airport. So basically, say we're flying up to here. So I can click, and I'll show you this when we get down on the ground. I can go to the airport. That's Winters Municipal. I can go more details, and then what I can do is full screen. And basically what it's going to show me is elevation above is almost 1900 there. So basically it's the same. So as you're moving across the country, that's one way to tell like how high the terrain is MSL, and then you can adjust it off this. So when I fly cross country, every airport I'm coming up on, I listen to their ATIS or AWOS, which is basically the same thing, tune it in, making sure I'm adjusting my pressure altitude to ensure that I know kind of like what altitude I am above the ground. Okay. Yeah. That's the best way to do it. There's another way in here. So I will show you this. I can change this to let's see. No. There's an altitude one. Oh, they actually have a pressure altitude. So they have a pressure altitude versus GPS. But pressure altitude is just going to run off the ATIS information from what I connected to last time. So I can just click this GPS. So this is via the GPS back there. With everything, roughly what altitude my GPS is saying I'm at. It's saying I'm at 57. Really super close. So, Barrow, pressure altitude, and actual absolute GPS altitude's a little different. And so it knows my GPS altitude. There's an actual height above ground there. So you see 3885. Okay. So there's also, that's why I love these mobile things, because they keep updating and all this other kind of stuff. So let me make sure this is still recording. What's my battery at? 30. Okay, cool. Before we go land, I will turn this off, swap out batteries so you can continue getting all this data and train. So that's just one of the tools we can use in the cockpit to kind of help us out here. Okay. All right, cool. So if you want to head back towards San Angelo, I will put us a direct. Nope. Hit here. So I go San Angelo, Mathis, details, up, back, up, here. Go click that. Oh, why did it snap to that? That was dumb. I do more, and then there's a direct to option. Just hit direct to, and then you can follow this magenta line. There. So, and then so this outer ring right here is 10 nautical miles. I make a call when about 10 nautical miles out. You can kind of look out here and try to get an idea of where the airport is. So for me, looking at the map, and this is going to come in handy to your, what is it called? There's an actual term being figuring out where you are, navigating. Dead reckoning. Dead reckoning. Here you go. Dead reckoning versus a map and not having GPS. So if you were flying just with your paper, looking at this to figure out where you are. So for me, flying here in San Angelo, you got the town. You can kind of see the town's off to the left side of the airport. So what we're going to try to do is get to the left side of the town and then look for other key features. We got the clouds up here. So what we're going to do, let's descend down to, let's go down to 3,500 feet. You can do it with the power. What you're gonna, if you got power in, you go at the same speed, you're gonna actually have to trim it down, or you can bring back the throttle. So those are your two options. So what we're gonna try to do is get down below these clouds, and then what you want to try to do is keep moving to the right, and then I'll set us up for a nice approach into the airport. So now that we're gonna do our descent checklist, which is basically what we ran through. We're not gonna pull a checklist. It's what we did when we were doing the maneuvers. So you're gonna go mixture full rich. Yep. Turn the fuel pump on. Cool, and that's basically it. Okay, so super simple. So now we're gonna get the weather. So since we have all this stuff already set up, right? Oh, I changed the frequency for the tower. Great. Let me go back to San Angelo. Tower, or I changed the frequency for the ground, and I'll show you how to change this here in a second. When we're on the ground, we'll mess around with the radio so you can kind of get familiar with that. And then I'm going to go to Comp 2 and listen to the weather.
San Angelo Tower information Tango, time 16510.
We're going kind of fast, is that a problem?
Gusts 25,
no,
visibility 10, sky clear below 12,000, temperature 14, dew point 9er. Altimeter 3002, remarks peak winds 19028.
19028. Okay, cool.
Parking runway 18.
So the winds have gone down a little bit, which is good.
VFR arrivals requesting approach services. Contact San Angelo.
Then we'll switch it back to this. So now we're on tower frequency, so I'll give a call at when we're 10. So just keep coming to the right here. And once we get below the clouds, I'll kind of point out what I am looking for to kind of help me set up for the runway. And yeah, you can level off here. And just keep bringing it down to 3,500. And if you feel like it's too much of a hassle, you can bring the throttle back. And you can bring it back to 23 or something like that if you wanted to. Or you can keep the speed up. It doesn't matter. If we have rough air, you're not going to want to go faster than 120. So if it was like really bouncing us around, we want to make sure we're slow enough that we're not damaging the airplane, and you're going to shoot for 120. This airplane basically flies at 120, so there's not a whole lot of difference. The only time you're going to get above that is when you're doing like this, and see we're getting up to like 130 or whatnot. So, and that's no issue. The max speed you never want to get above is this 190 miles an hour. That is like the structural limitation of the airplane. You can start doing bad things if you go faster than that. So. And then other limitations is the engine. You don't want to run faster than 2,700 RPMs. And the red line is a 2,700. So, yep. Okay, cool. Keep coming it down, and then you can bring it back to the right. Or, sorry, the left. My bad. And so if I call him 10 miles out, that gives me 5 miles prior to him me coming to his airspace, because his airspace is basically a 5-mile circle above his head. So, yeah, and don't worry about these clouds. We're good. We can see basically right through them and see what's on the other side. The reason we don't want to fly through clouds is because we don't know if there's other traffic on the other side. If there's something like this we can see on the other side, it's not an issue. Okay. Yeah.
Mini 26 Victor, where are you parking?
We're going to Ranger.
26 Victor, turn right on Delta, turn left on Bravo, taxi parking.
Right, Delta left, Bravo.
Yeah, and I can't even see the airport yet. Normally I see it from this far, but it's a little hazy today. So, these clouds are covering my spots that I point out. So you have the water that's like right here, which is that lake right here. You have the main roads that you can kind of see the lines through that run through right down San Angelo. So basically what you want to do is you want to be closer to this water, which would then get us close to a straight in for 1-8. And then once we get closer to San Angelo, you can kind of see. All right, I'm going to call up this tower. Mathis Tower, Grumman 6034 Lima. It's 10 miles to the north with Tango, request patterns. You're still in control, I'm just talking right now.
6034 Lima, Mathis Tower, squawking 0227. You want to stay in the pattern, is that correct?
Squawking 0227, and yeah, we want to do a couple patterns, Grumman 6034 Lima. That's if the wind is not too squirrely. If it gets really squirrely, I'll just stand over and do full stop.
34 Lima, Roger, make a standard approach to runway 18, wind 210, 18, gust 25, and after you touch and go, you make right or left traffic.
Can we make a left traffic and straight in for 18, Grumman 6034 Lima. So we're going to make left traffic, so...
34 Lima, Roger. 34 Lima, runway 18 cleared, touch and go.
You already cleared us. Runway 18 cleared, touch and go, Grumman 6034 Lima. So you already cleared us for touch and go. So now,
what is the left approach you were talking about?
So left patterns is, so typically most airports are going to have left traffic. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to make left turns when we do it in the pattern coming back around. Right traffic, we make right turns.
Okay, so if you're doing a touch and go, you're going to
make left turn. Yep, exactly. And I like that way better. It gives us more, there's more outs that on that side. So yeah.
Because the right side's water.
Yeah, so you can see the airport right over here. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong spot. So that big lake over there is kind of like where I kind of walk in. So you see the runway right there, that big long one. So once we've hit about 5 nautical miles, so which is this next circle here, we're going to want to bring the speed back so that we're not coming in super fast, because our airspeed that we're going to try to do pattern work is 100 miles an hour. And then on final, we're going to try to be about 85, what we talked about with the gust factor type stuff. So we still have 1,000 feet to go. So traffic pattern is going to be about 3,000 feet. So big round numbers, even though pattern altitude typically is 1,000 feet above the ground, it would technically be 2,900 feet, but 3,000 is easy one to go, so that's what we're going to shoot for. So yeah, mixture, pump, cool. Squawking, we're clear to land. Cool. So keep bringing it in. And then I'll tell you when we're at the 5 nautical miles, and then what we're going to do is you go...
You want me to shoot for the right side over here?
So you see the taxiway, right? So they're kind of the right, and then the big long runway with the black. So just kind of line up, keep going this way till you think we could make a turn to the left and be straight on for the runway. Okay. So that's kind of like what you're doing here. Yep. All right. We're in a position, I'm switching fuel tanks because we've used the right fuel tank the entire time. I should have done that before. So that's you switch to the fullest fuel tank, but you want to do it in a position, like if we have plenty of fuel, we could have stayed on the right. But just for this, I'm going to switch to the left, just so kind of even it out a little.
And typically you want to do that 4 minutes before landing.
So on the ground it takes about 4 minutes. In the air it literally takes like 30 seconds. So we're already feeding for the left tank, so it's not an issue. So if we had an issue and I couldn't get it back and get it restarted, I could have landed on the highway right there.
It's wild how much smoother it is, 2,000 feet up.
Yeah. All right, so we're now 5 nautical miles out, so you can pull the throttle back to 22. Yep. And that'll get us slowed down a little bit here and get us down. So you see on the left there's those lights. We got 3 red right now. Basically, this is going to be an indication of our approach. And basically, what it is telling us whether we're on glide slope to land where those lights are, which is 500 feet down the runway.
Okay.
So when instrument pilots do it, they try to land at those big Hershey bars on the left, or 500 feet down the runway. When it's 4 red, it says we're low. Right now, it doesn't matter. What we're going to do is level off here. You can kind of start leveling off. Because what we're trying to do is now
maintain 3,000 feet.
Maintain about 3,000 feet till we get closer. We're going to try to let the speed bleed off. I'm going to talk a bunch right now, and if I want to take over, I will let you know. So yeah, keep pulling back because we're still descending. Yep. So when you're on glide slope, you're going to see 2 red, 2 white. So the 2 red will be to your right, and then the 2 white will be to your left, type thing. There's other indicators, like they'll sometimes have 2 lights. So 1 red will be you're on, and 1 white means you're on. And if you see 2 red, then you're low, 2 white, you're high, type thing. If we got 3, see now we got a 1 white, so that means we're getting closer to that glide path. Yep, keep bringing it back right there. I'm just going to follow you. you keep controlling it. I'm just gonna help you. Okay, cool. So as we get closer, I don't know if we're gonna get too white because we're gonna try to shoot for the numbers. So we're landing beforehand. So that we'd be low for where it's telling us to land. But that's just a visual indication, so you're not having to look in here to like. If you're flying an instrument approach, looking at like something like this, it's telling you whether or not you're in glide slope. You're visual. You know you're good. You're gonna kind of make the runway type thing. So, yeah. Okay.
So that's based on your walking.
Nope, that has nothing to do with it. It's all angle versus the lights.
Oh, okay.
So it's set up for a 5-degree glide path. So if you're high, depending on how high in relation to that light is, there's actually 2 lights in it. You're going to see one or the other.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. All right, so now we're getting close, so I'm going to start actually coming down. So then I set that 1500 RPM. All right, I have the airplane now. I can come down. And then I am fast, so, but it's okay, we got plenty of runway. We're clear to land, correct? Cool. So now you can see we're kind of setting it up. I'm still a little fast, but we did a straight in. Straight ins, typically you get set up fast. You're faster than what you should be.
So if you wanted to be slower, you would have got to 100 further back?
Correct, yep. And then now I'm trading my altitude, or leveling off, to then slow down. So I'm still at 95 miles an hour, there's 90. So I'm going to keep this right about here. So to not descend anymore, I'm going to add power, because your power is what keeps your altitude. So the picture, what you're going to look for, is you're going to drive to where your point is. So I'm driving to the 1.8. And I'm trying to keep it level on my windscreen as much as I can. If I need to gain airspeed, I put the nose down. If I need to lose, I pitch up. If I need altitude or if I need to lose altitude, you move the throttle in which way I need to go. So if I need to lose more, I take throttle out. If I need to like gain altitude, I put or reduce the amount that I'm losing. I give it more throttle, like I'm going to have to do here. And then as you get over the numbers, you're like, oh, I'm good. Oh, and see there, just because we're kind of crabbed this way, that wing is going to, like, saying I'm potentially going to stall first over there versus this one. And so I'm going to keep this crab till I get close, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the wind correction, which is right aileron, left rudder, to kind of keep it so that I need to put more, and there we go. See, crosswinds are my biggest issue that I had with in private. We're going to actually make this full stop, Grumman 603 following. Yeah, we're just going to stop here, because this is... It's not going to be.
Roger, clear to land runway 18, wind 20019, or guess 24.
Clear to land, Grumman 603 following. So there. Yeah. So I'm going to put the nose down just so you feel it. So you felt that wobble. That just means to put it down.
Where are you parking?
We're going to Ranger 340 man.
340 limit, turn right on Delta, turn left on Bravo, taxi to parking, monitor ground.
Right on Delta, left on Bravo to Ranger, hold monitor ground, grab 603 for thanks. Yeah, this is, it was a little too squirrely. Hope that's okay with you. Yeah. Okay. So then, basically, he told me to go right on Delta. Then you just get slowed down enough that you're not, like, really trying to take these fast. Goodness, that wind on the ground is, I feel it on the tail. And then we'll keep the airplane running a little bit on the ground so we can mess around with the radios and not do anything.
So basically, trying to eat down to the ground, coming off on power.
That, yep, and then moving this back and forth to try to keep it the right attitude.
Want to keep your nose a little high, so back wheels.
Right, exactly, yeah. Touching, especially in this airplane, touching nose wheel first is really bad. And can be somewhat dangerous. And any airplane is that way. This one is extremely, or not really extremely, it's just more dangerous because the prop is closer to the ground than like on a Cessna or something like that. So if you touch on the nose wheel, you're really close to hitting the prop first. So, yeah. But yeah, we did like an hour and a half so far.
That was fun. I learned a lot.
Cool, yeah. And I mean, he's going to have some techniques that'll help you too. More than me because I'm not an instructor. It's basically stuff that I've learned and that's helped me that I'm trying to teach you. to show you. So, and typically, I'm going to actually lean it out here while we sit here and fiddle around with it. But typically, when we get off the runway, you would stop, do your after landing checklist, get everything set up, and then just continue parking. Or you talk to ground and be like, hey, I'm ready to go park here, and they'll do it. So, but I'm going to lean it really aggressively. So you can kind of see what that looks like. Yeah, so you heard that there. Okay. All right. So this is kind of like how you'd set up, and then you'd start doing your before shutdown type stuff. But we're going to mess around with radios because that's the thing that is some of the most daunting for people. Okay, so this is still recording at 7%, so you can like actually hear this. Cool. Okay, so when we're changing frequencies, this big outer knob is what changes the big numbers. The small one changes the small numbers. Now, on a frequency, let's see, let me find one that has a frequency that's a little different. So you can see here, so ATIS at Martin State is got a third digit, but we don't have a third digit showing here. So how do you do that? You actually have to pull this out and then turn it, and you get that third digit. And it goes, it's like in quarters type thing. Yep. Well here, let me, okay, now there you go. Yep, so that's where you got to pull it out to get that small number. There you go. Yep. Okay, so this radio is the only one that can do the third digit. On this radio, if you're using a backup, you can only do the 2 digits versus the 3. It's just because of the older style, they didn't have the, the more precise radio frequencies. So if you want to put in 128.8, let's switch this. You're going to go 121.8. So this one's big numbers, that one over there is small numbers. Yeah, just by feeling it, you can tell that it's an older radio. Okay, so, and now, talking about the, you can take your seatbelt off. I'm going to open this canopy so it gets a little cooler. And then when you take the seatbelt off, I would suggest just doing this underneath you, so that it's easier when you get back on the airplane, so you don't have like fishing around for the seatbelt type thing. Okay, so we talked about the transponder a little bit. So you saw me put in that frequency or that transponder code. So he gives me a discrete code that is then tied specifically to me, so he knows it's me. This is anybody, so like when we were just flying out there farting around, anybody flying is going to have this code. It just lets them know that there's other traffic out there, and it gives them information about my airplane. I have a new transponder that they get information, like they actually know my tail number, they know my airspeed, and they know my altitude. Older transponders, they would just know there's an airplane there, like nothing else. So when he gives me that discrete code, it ties that code to my airplane. So you can solve this pretty easy. You just type it in, and then it automatically goes. So it starts off with the left number, goes to the right, and you just put in the number. So it was we're on ground, so it's not that big a deal. It was like 1227. So there you go, and that's basically all it is. And it's in. It's already moving. And then I'm going to go back to VFR. If for some reason they ask you to ident, so basically what that does is if he's not sure where you're at, and he needs your transponder to send information that, hey, I am here, and it basically flashes on his radar screen, you hit the ident button, which is this right here. So basically that's it. So these other things here, on basically means that while I'm sitting on the ground, I could override this thing because it's not transmitting on ground. I could tell it to turn on, so then it's going to start transmitting this, but it's not going to give my altitude. So that's just what on means. Altitude means it's going to start transmitting now on the ground, and it's going to send my altitude that it's reading. So it has a box that gets information from here that then gets put into a code that gets sent out. So I could put altitude, and it would override that it's in ground. When it's in ground, it's not going to transmit. Okay, so that would override. Standby basically means it's what it is right now on ground, where it's not transmitting, it's not doing anything or whatsoever. So, and then these functions, I honestly don't know what those are. If I had an issue, I would have, honestly, if it's freaking out, I just turn it off. turn it back on, like what you saw before, and have it redo its stuff. And if it doesn't clear, then I'm like, well, shit. My little book is back home, and I don't know what to do. So that's that. Now talking about the radios. So squelch, so let's go to COM 2 so you can kind of hear this. So you hear the little buzz, the hum. Basically, you can get rid of some of that hum by switching the squelch. So,
COM 1 and then...
Correct, yeah. Let me go back, put the right, not Lano. So it was 128.45.
You have information, uniform.
So now we're back on the ATIS here. To change the overall volume of this that then gets pumped through this. So like this is what controls everything that then comes out through all these ports. So to change the volume from what this then feeds to that is this. So that's off. And you can see now I can
3002
really loud.
Remarks.
So it's super loud for both everybody. You can change it from here. Same thing with this is you have your off and volume there. Okay. Yeah. Don't worry about the channel. This is I can pre-program channels, and that's how I do it. So that's you don't have to worry about that. You just have to worry about changing and then flip-flopping, all that kind of stuff. Okay. With this head, this is where when we couldn't talk to people in the back, it was because